Welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie. We're just so delighted that you're with us today, and we have so much history to review. And this is our history number 33 segment, and this is January the 12th, 1987. We are very pleased to bring to you a trio, all that are related to the Barnes and Clontz family. And so we're bringing back the old names of Clontz and Barnes from the history of Grand Prairie, and we're just so delighted to welcome, first of all, Wanda Barnes Helm. Wanda, we're very glad to have you with us today, my dear. And next, Jessie Barnes Clontz. We're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And Mary Clontz Brown, who is the daughter of our older guest, Jessie, and we're glad to have you from Irving, Mary.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And now we need to really get things together, and let's talk a little bit to Jessie. Jessie, we'd like for you to just look out into your camera and tell us a little bit about the history of your parents. Tell us their names, and if they originally were from Grand Prairie, tell us that, or if they came from another state, would you let us know about that? Look out and tell us about your parents.
Well, they came from Knoxville, Tennessee. They were, and of course there was two children. They had two children born there, and the rest of us was born in Texas.
All right. And you had how many brothers and sisters?
I had 4 brothers and 4 sisters.
4 brothers
Myself.
and 4 sisters. Would you like to name your brothers and sisters?
Yes, Charles Barnes, and me, and Laura Barnes, and Margie Barnes, and Raymond Barnes, and Hall and Paul Barnes. They were twins, and I'm a twin.
Wonderful. 2 sets of twins in one family. That is so exciting. Now, I'd like for you to give us your father's full name and then your mother's full name, including her maiden name, so we can tie all of that little family together. Would you do that?
Well, my father, J.R. Barnes, is James Riley Barnes,
All right.
and Fanny Fincham.
Fanny Fincham
Yes,
Barnes.
yeah.
Wonderful. And they came from Tennessee
Yes,
and came to
ma'am.
Texas. And where did they settle?
In Arlington.
In Arlington, Texas.
They settled there first, and then they came to Grand Prairie.
How long did they live in the Arlington area?
Well, you know, I guess I wasn't born then, but I was born here in Grand Prairie.
You were born here in Grand Prairie,
Yes,
Texas. That's wonderful. Now, would you like to tell us how old you are and where you were born? Would you do
Yes,
that?
I was born in a greenhouse set right in front of the Methodist Church.
All
down
right.
there. And I'm 86 years old.
That
And
is-
I've been here except the 3 years that we moved to Final Point.
All right. Now, with your parents, you moved into the Arlington area, then they moved to Grand Prairie. And did you get to go to
And I
school
was
in Grand
born in Grand Prairie.
All right. And you went to school in Grand Prairie?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. And you met a very fine young man in Grand Prairie,
Yes,
Texas.
I did.
And what was his name?
Allie Joe Clontz.
Allie Joe Clontz. And you all got married in a magic year. And could you tell us the year that you all got
We
married?
married November the 24th, 1918.
1918,
Yes,
about
ma'am.
the time of the war and all
Yes,
the,
when World War ended.
when World War I ended. All right. Now, when you and Mr. Clontz were married, where did you all live in Grand Prairie?
Yeah, we lived in that house right there up on the
This-
hill.
All right.
He had a farm.
You lived in this little house that's right here, the little small farm-looking house that we have an oil painting of.
Yeah.
And you lived there, and where was that located?
Right northeast of town.
Right northeast of Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yeah.
Do you know what would be
You know
there
where
at this time?
Fairview is?
I know where Fairview is.
Well, it's this side of there. We sold that, finally sold that property for housing.
All right.
Birch and, I mean,
In Hickory and Oak
yeah,
and some of
yeah.
those streets.
All those-
All down in the Fairview was the farm that
Yeah.
you and your husband owned, and you sold it for the development of the Fairview
Yes,
area.
Travis School.
Right, and Travis School was in the middle of that. And at that time, this little farmhouse was not what was down there on the farm, was it?
Now, yeah, it was on the farm when we went there. We
All
lived
right.
there 6 years.
All right, and then what happened?
Well, when we lived there 6 years, well, we decided, we went in the dairy business.
All right.
And we dairied for 10 years.
Okay.
And then we built that house. Every week when we get a milk check, we put money into that house right there.
Oh, to the other house. This
Yes,
is
ma'am.
your new house
Yes,
that you
ma'am.
built when you were in the dairy business.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. And was your dairy farm also located down in the Fairview area?
Well, no.
Where
we
was it
just
located?
Leased land east, north of us there so they could go to the farm across the river.
Okay, that's wonderful. So north of the river, so that's
Yeah.
north of the turnpike then,
Yeah,
isn't it?
we had 300 and some odd acres over there,
All right.
north of Turnpike.
All right, approximately where the new Chasewood development is going in there now?
Yeah, we lived over there. That is our farm. We sold to John Thorne.
All right, that's wonderful. Isn't that a good bunch of history?
Yes.
All right, and we,
But she's left out part of the good part.
oh, what part did she live out? Remind
Where
her where
she met him.
Oh,
and it
yes.
was on
Yeah, I
a plank
met-
sidewalk. It was
I
on a
met
plank
my
walk.
husband coming from school. I was 17 years old.
All
I was
right.
in high school. There
All
was a
right.
couple of girls and me coming down, and the Grand Prairie just had old plank sidewalks.
Plank sidewalks,
That's
okay.
all I had.
And that was down the main drag on
Yes,
Main
ma'am.
Street?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
All right,
And he was standing on that sidewalk.
all right.
When we passed and he spoke and tipped his hat, you know, and smiled, and we went on. I never paid no attention to him much. Never seen him before. And went on down the road, and one of the girls said, "Oh, you found your boyfriend." I said, "Are you kidding? I never saw that man before in my life." Well, went on for about a month after that. There was an airplane lit below his field. Everybody went to see it, you know. And he was down there, but I didn't know it. So he came up to me, he saw me come up to me, pet on the shoulder, and he says, "How are you today?" I said, "Well, I'm fine, how are you?" Got talking, and he asked for a date that night. It went from there.
And it went from there. That is wonderful. And all this time, he was a farmer down in
Yes.
that area.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and when you all married, and did you work with him on the farm and
Yes,
in the
ma'am,
dairy?
I did.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us what all you did on the farm and in the dairy.
Well, I milked cows.
You milked
I
cows.
milked cows, and we milked 45 head twice a day for 10 years.
And that's a bunch.
It is a bunch.
Yes, it is.
And I did everything. I chopped cotton, I picked cotton, and I helped bale hay, and I did anything, gather corn, anything we had to do.
That's wonderful. Now, as your children grew, and they went to Grand Prairie schools.
Yes.
All of them went to Grand Prairie schools.
ma'am.
Oh, that's wonderful. And now, Mary lives nearby in Irving. How about your other children?
She lives right above me in Grand Prairie.
Wonderful. Good. How about your other children? Where do they live?
Well, my sons passed away about several years ago,
All right.
and I just had 3.
You just had the 3.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, tell us a little bit more, please, about your husband that was so wonderful, and that you've just lost him last year, right?
Yes. We lived together 67 years.
67 years. That
Last
is,
November the 24th, we'd been married 67 years.
oh, that is just a wonderful record, and we were very sorry to lose him because he was really sort of a historical landmark
Yes,
in
he
Grand
was.
Prairie
He was.
himself. All right. Now, Jesse, would you tell us, as you've lived in Grand Prairie all of these years, what do you remember about Grand Prairie as being the greatest thing that made it grow?
Well, when I was a girl going to school, they just had old plank sidewalks, and they never had any paved streets whatsoever. Grand Prairie just had a grocery store and a dry goods store and a bank and a post office.
All right.
And so, well, it finally, then there was, the Interurbans came through.
All right. That
We
was a
had-
good one, wasn't
yes,
it?
it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we went to pay our place off in Grand Prairie, we made a good crop that year, and he had a bunch of calves. So we sold them, and he said, "Let's go pay the place off." They've been painting on it every year. And I said, okay. And we went down there, paid the place off. Well, we came back down, and he says, it's in the fall of the year, in October. He said, have you ever been to the fair? And I said, no, I haven't. He said, would you like to go? And I said, well, what we got to go on? He said, well, we got going to the fair back to Grand Prairie. I said, let's go. And we spent the whole day down there looking at livestock, poultry, and I learned how to do a lot of canning.
At the fair?
At the fair.
Wonderful. And do you remember what year that was?
Oh, Lord mercy.
Don't try to remember what year that was. I don't want to bring that back from your memory. And I'm sure that you saw Grand Prairie grow after the interurban and after they paved the old pike.
Well, see, when I was a girl, that's all it was. It didn't have any paved streets. And in the middle of town, right in the middle of the highway going through town, they had a big artesian well, and it black mud.
And
through the
black
street.
mud.
Yeah, they never had any gravel or anything. And they had a huge, great big tank there where the water flowed. And then there wasn't any cars to mount anything. It was all horse and buggy. And they'd drive up there, water that stock, and that'd be the messiest place you've ever seen.
I bet it would. And
Oh, mud was about that deep, black as tar.
Wouldn't
Right in
people-
the middle of town.
wouldn't people quarrel today if that was
Oh,
going on?
mercy me.
Now, Jesse, before you met Mr. Klontz, and before you were 17, what did the young people do for entertainment?
Well, my daddy was a truck farmer.
He was a truck farmer.
We worked.
Uh-huh.
We didn't go to swimming pools, we didn't go to parties and all this crap and the other. He kept us busy.
Kept you working.
Yes, he did.
And as a truck farmer, every one of you all probably had a job,
We
didn't you?
sure did.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds. Where did you all go to church in Grand Prairie?
First Baptist Church.
First Baptist Church in Grand Prairie, Texas. Oh, that is just wonderful. We're going to let you rest for just about a minute, and then we're going to talk a little bit to Wanda and to Mary about their respective families. And since Mary is your daughter, we're going to her first and let her tell us about her particular family, her husband's name, and of course if she has children, and where she lives, and just a little bit about Mary. Since she's your daughter, we want to tie this together. Mary, would you look out into your camera and tell us about Mary Klontz Brown?
Okay, I'm now residing in Irving, and my husband's name is Bill, and he's in business for himself. We have 3 sons, Steve, Mike, and Kevin, and their ages are 32, 30, and 24. I did grow up in Grand Prairie. I was born here in this, let me see if I can get the right house, in this, no, this house right here.
Born in that house, and do you have any grandchildren, Mary?
Oh yes, I have 4 grandchildren.
Okay, 4 grandchildren. Good. Would you like to name those?
Well, let's see. Think about it.
That's it, isn't it?
They all begin with M. There's Mark and Mary Dean and Melanie and Matthew.
Wonderful. That is good. Now, we've given Mary once over the coals very well, haven't we? And Mary, when you were in Grand Prairie High School or Grand Prairie schools, who was your favorite teacher of all?
Well, Mrs. Verena Height always sticks out in my mind as being a very wonderful English teacher.
Wonderful. All right, now let's go to our friend Wanda Barnes Helm.
I am not going to tell the ages of my children because
Oh.
Terry might not like it.
She would be very unhappy. I'd like for you to tell your full name, your husband's full name, the name of all of your children, and the names of your grandchildren. Look out and tell them about Wanda Barnes Helm.
All right, Wanda Barnes Helms. I met my husband Paul on the way home from work one night. I was working at the Bomber Cafe, going to school in the day. And of course, he was the shortest one, and I ended up with him. Heavens to Betsy. We have 4 children, Timothy, Terry, Tommy, Tracy, and I have 6 grandchildren with 2 more on the way.
Wonderful.
They're Terry, Michael, Chase, Jeffrey, Tyson, Tristan, and then I'll have Crystal and Taylor.
Okay, now, do any of those live in Grand Prairie, Texas?
Yes, Terry is City Councilwoman Terry Jackson.
Terry
And-
Helms Jackson.
Right,
All
and
right, and she has two sons.
Boys.
All right, give us their names one more
Michael
time.
Paul Jackson and Brian Chase.
And she
Jackson.
is married to
Mike Jackson.
Mike Jackson. Okay,
They
wanted to
both
get
work for
that
the plant.
continuity in there for us. Anyone else live in Grand Prairie?
The oldest boy just moved back last year from Eastland. He was out there, and the oil industry got so bad that he's come back to
All
work
right, give
here.
us his name and his family's name.
Timothy Paul, and he
Right.
has one daughter, Terry Leanne, and she still lives in Eastland.
In Eastland, Texas.
And then I have two that live in Duncanville. They moved to Duncanville several years ago, in 1980, about Tommy Ramey and Tracy Helms.
Tracy Helm. All right, now, Wanda, we need to get a spin-off into you were born in Grand Prairie.
Well, I was
where?
born in Grand Prairie
Now,
over on North Street.
Tell us how you are related to Aunt Jessie.
Well, my daddy was her older brother,
All
and he
right.
was babysitting her one day. And they not only had a truck farm in Grand Prairie, but they also had this restaurant uptown. Well, all of the scraps and everything went in a great big old bucket to take home to the hogs.
Okay.
Well, it made my daddy a little unhappy to have to babysit this little girl, and so he slung her up on the shoulder, and when he did, she went head first over in this
In the
slop
slop
bucket. Yeah, and of course grandmother screamed and yelled and grabbed her, and there was chili and everything just running down her. And Daddy laughed about that till the day he died, practically.
Yes. All right, now, tell me this, the name of the restaurant downtown.
I don't know. You'd have to
He
know.
just had a butcher meat market.
He had a meat market.
Yeah. And my mother decided she'd make chili.
All right.
So that's all there was to it.
See, I didn't know that.
Sold, and they'd buy a steak down there. In the Heights, we'd go to church, and the Heights had quite a few sons.
Yes.
And they'd give them a quarter to go to Barnes's market to get enough steak for dinner. Told them they'd eat steak and they could have the gravy.
Wonderful,
But
wonderful.
they got all the meat, all the steak they could eat for a quarter.
Good. All right, now, Wanda, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your schooling here in Grand Prairie.
Well, the Grand Prairie is the only school that I attended,
All right.
and all 4 children. Grand Prairie is the only schools.
Who
that
was
they
the
attend.
principals that you
Oh.
could name?
Roberts,
Mr. L.A. Roberts.
L.A. Roberts,
was
and his son was in the same grade that I was.
All right.
We started school
Jack
together.
Roberts?
Ray Jack.
Ray Jack.
And, of course, Clary Sargent and Margaret Bingham and Hazel Rogers. We all graduated, except Ray Jack. He didn't graduate with us.
All right, now, what was that magic year that you graduated from? Grand Prairie?
45.
In 1945.
45.
That was a
And-
good year. Have you all had your, a couple of years ago, had your reunion?
No, don't think so. We had one several years ago, but not any recently, as far as I know. They didn't get in touch with me.
Oh, they didn't get in touch with you. All right, let's pass you up for a minute and go back to Aunt Jessie. Aunt Jessie, where do you live now, my dear?
I live northeast town on Crescent Drive.
You live on Crescent Drive in the northeast part of town.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have been living there in that home how long?
Let's see how long it's been married.
14 years.
About 14 years. That is wonderful. And as you've seen things happening lately in Grand Prairie, and if you read the paper or they read it to you and tell you all of this good stuff that's going on, what impresses you about Grand Prairie now?
Well, I think it's growing a lot. There's a lot of crime and stuff going on too.
Yes, there is.
So, although we haven't been bothered, nobody's never bothered us or anything. But,
All right. What do you think about the new lake that may be going out south
well,
of
that's
town?
wonderful. Wonderful.
All
Going out
right.
there.
Do you remember any of the old families that used to live around Grand Prairie that really impressed you?
Well, I used to know quite a few of them, but I forgot them.
You
And,
still have a good friend down, Ann Cox down the
Yeah, Ann Cox, she's been there as long as I have.
Ann Cox, does she live near you?
Yes, she lives northeast of town on Walnut Street.
On Walnut Street, all
Yeah.
right. And are you still able to go to church?
Well, not right now, but I have been.
Okay.
I've been in the Baptist church ever since I was 13 years old.
Well, someone had told me that you had been ill, and we were sort of
Well,
waiting
I
for
have.
you to
I have.
recuperate
I can't
to be
walk
on
yet
this.
by myself.
All right. And you're feeling real good now, though,
Yes,
aren't you?
ma'am.
And you're mending and looking forward to spring.
Yeah, sure am.
All right. If you had any advice to give to young people today, like your daughter and like your niece here and other people in Grand Prairie, what do you think is very, very important as far as they're concerned?
Well, they're grown. They know what they could do and how to do and all. And so,
Would you like to be an advisor to them and encourage them to stay away from drugs and things like that?
Oh, yes.
What were the kids into that was mischief when you were growing up?
well, they never did do so much. We didn't have the trouble we got now. Nothing like it. We knew nothing about drugs, nothing like that.
Well, tell me this. When you were in school, what did you all do did you have school parties?
Well, we did sometimes in Christmas time, something like that. But we always went to school and we'd come straight home.
Well, can you remember any of your teachers, your favorite teachers?
Let's see. Well, I don't know. I've had so many of them. I don't know. That's been an awful long time ago.
That has been an awful long time ago.
Of course, I worked at the school for a long time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What
in the
did you do at
cafeteria.
the school?
Worked at the cafeteria.
You worked in the cafeteria.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that when the cafeteria was in the big red building or the one out to the side of the big red
Well,
building?
the one I worked in, it was in the top of the building
In the top of the big
of the
red
high school.
high school building,
No, it was just up on the top floor.
on the top floor.
Yeah.
And what did you do in the cafeteria?
I cooked.
You were cooked. Oh, that's wonderful. What all did you cook for the kids those days?
Well, I usually made all the sweets. I made donuts, and I made jelly rolls, and I made cobblers, and anything they wanted sweet. Did it?
Did you know Aunt Lida Small that worked
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the
I
cafeteria?
knew Lida Small.
Were you all good friends, and did you all ever
yeah,
work
Miss
together?
Copeland worked with me too, Miss Sam Copeland.
Ms. Sad Copeland?
Yes, ma'am.
I see. Okay, well, you're name dropping some good names. That's what we want to know about. And in the cafeteria, was there anyone else that worked
Oh,
with you there
yes,
that you could give
my
us some
sister
names?
worked there with me. She's caused me getting a job up there. It didn't work, but she wanted me to go because I knew how to do things.
All right, now name your sister her full name that worked with you in the cafeteria.
Laura Mae Jordan.
Okay. And did she marry the Jordans that lived east of Grand Prairie down at the old Jordan Ranch, or was this another set of Jordans?
Well, I really don't know that part of it,
All
but she
right.
married a man by the name of Bert Jordan.
Bert Jordan. Okay.
She had 3 children, but he died when her baby was 6 months old.
Who were the leading citizens when you were growing up about 17? Do you remember any of those? Like who was the alderman or the fire chief, like
And I
Mr.
don't know if they
Swadley?
even had a
or-
fire chief then or not.
You didn't even have any
I
fire
don't
chief?
think so.
Okay.
Of course,
Did you have a constable or someone that took care of you from the county?
And I don't know, I can't remember that.
You didn't get in any trouble, so you didn't know
Oh,
who
no,
the
I
constable
sure
was,
didn't.
did you? All right. Can you remember any of the older ministers that were at the First Baptist Church that you could name drop, like maybe the one that baptized you or something like
Yeah, I
that?
named the one that married us.
All
There was-
right, let's name those.
Oh, let's see, what is his name? What is it I told you he was married? Brother Newsom. Newsom married us, and then they had one with the name Wright, and
right.
Taylor,
And Taylor?
and several of them. Taylor and
Was there a Fagan?
Fagan. Yeah, that's
Fagan,
about the
Reverend
word I remember.
Fagan?
Yeah.
Okay, those are some good names. See what good things she's bringing out to us, Wanda? Great. All right. Jesse, we're going to leave you for just a minute, and we're going to go back to Wanda and let her tell us a little. Wanda, having graduated from Grand Prairie High School in about the 45s, and you've seen lots of good stuff going on in Grand Prairie, what do you think has really impressed you with the early growth of Grand Prairie?
You don't want to get me started on that because I'm not very impressed with what happened to Grand Prairie to let it die the way it did. And it had, until just recently in the last few years, come back.
It's come back, hasn't
It's
it?
come back. But I was very disappointed because I moved off in 1973 and then moved back in 1980. But
Do you think the plant had any impact? The
the
North
plant
American
had a lot of
Aviation?
impact on it because, like, Dallas came out along the railroad and took in all of the plant, and we were
left us with the neighborhood.
Left us with the neighborhood, right? And they say the Dallas Naval Air Station, when it's in Grand Prairie,
All
was
right.
a sore spot.
Since you have a daughter, Terry, on the city council, what do you think is the greatest growth potential that we have in the next couple of years? And we have one more minute to wind down.
Greatest because we have the available land. Many other cities are boxed in, but we have so much that is undeveloped.
Who are the leaders in the city in the past that impressed you with their leadership? One or two?
You, for one.
No, I mean
Yes.
city
Listen,
leaders.
no, you have done as much as any mayor or city councilman before you.
I'm so glad you invited you to the show. Wanda, thank you. Mary, we want to thank you for bringing your mom over. And Jesse, you don't know what it means to us to have you on the show.
Well, thank you.
It is just wonderful. And Wanda, for you and Terry arranging this for us, it is just marvelous. And we want to thank you all
We
for
thank
being
you
on
for
the show.
inviting us.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.